Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Suzerain. So this is going to be a little bit different of a video. It's been asked several times for me to show basically how I do the save game editing for the technologically challenged. And yes, I'm more than happy to help out in any way that I can. It's actually fairly simple. The only thing that you actually need for this is that you will need Notepad plus plus. I was about to say C plus plus, but yes, Notepad plus plus. That's the only thing that you'll actually need. And I honestly don't think you need Notepad plus plus. If you have Notepad, I think you can use either one. I just use this for work, so I just happen to have it. But yeah, that's all you're going to need in order to do this. And then the next thing you'll need to do is to find the actual save game folder for your games or whatnot for Suzerain. So it'll be at an address similar to this. I'm not going to actually click on this because it's going to show a whole bunch of other stuff. I'll show this in the next page when I actually get into the save file, the address that you'll look for. And basically you'll just change it to whatever your username is for your laptop or whatever it is or whatever. Then you'll come here. And this is all the save files that you turn around and have for this game. Now, as you can see, I have quite a few. And honestly, I don't even think this is all of them because this is just the ones that I have on my main drive. I did have some older saves that I have on other drives and stuff like that back when I first got the game. I try to back these things up. But yeah, this will be the ones that you're actively using right now. And as you can see, you will see a bunch of them. The one that you're going to be looking for is not the autosave file. This is just, I think this is one of the, basically whenever you get to a different turn or something like that. It's just the kind of the backup file for it. What you're going to be looking for is the active file. This is the file that you'll see whenever you click into the game. You'll see the continue button when you get to the main screen. This is that file. This is what you want to edit, because if you edit any of these other files, unless you load that specific file, it's not going to actually change anything. So we'll go ahead, right click on this, and we will edit with Notepad. And then you will get to this very long string of code. It's just one long line. This is what we'll be editing. This will have all the different decisions. This will have the different decrees. This will have your budget. Every last little thing that goes on in this game is going to be right here. You will see some other ones if you make a mistake and click on any of this other stuff, but this is the one that we're looking at. And as I said before, this is the address that you will be looking for. Excuse me. This is the address that you'll be looking for in Windows when you bring up your files. Of course, you'll just change the username to whatever your username is, and then you'll go from there. But yeah, this is what we'll be looking at to edit. And basically, all you have to do is just look for whatever you're trying to edit. So let's say if we want to turn around and edit authority, you'll hit Control F. And then when you hit Control F, it'll bring up this little search bar. And now we'll just try to search what we're looking for. So again, it was mentioned before, I had some ridiculous stuff that happened as far as the ADO and United Quintana offering to buy shares in RRG or whatever it was or whatnot. This probably came up because of the opinion, the approval or the opinions that I had for different countries or whatever. So in this case, we'll do Rizia DLC country public opinion, and we'll search that. Just hit enter. And the first thing we'll get to is this little string of code right over here. Rizia country public opinion. It's 116. So yeah, that's because I already changed it or whatever. I'm playing a different save file right now that I'm just, bullshitting around on or whatever. But yeah, that's what I've changed the public approval to. And you can change it to anything. You can make it negative. If you make it negative 100, it will definitely cause a lot of problems and trigger a lot of other stuff that'll happen in the game. So you have to be very mindful about this, is that it's not, zero is not the lowest, negative is the lowest. And again, you can have negative 100. And I don't know what the actual triggers are for certain things, but I'm pretty sure once you get past like a negative 10, maybe a negative 20, you're finna get large scale unrest and things like that. If you do 100, it should never get below anything at that point. You should always have happy people unless you're just trying to intentionally piss off people. And even then, I don't think it still will drop to ridiculous levels of lowness. So yeah, that's how you change your country's public opinion. If you wanted to change anything else, let's see what else we can do. just remove that. And in this case, it'll bring up anything with this little that basically deals with the country itself. So let me go back to that. And let's see what we got here. This is the religious ceremonies. And again, whenever you see these like true, false, or anything like that, that is to say that such an event happened. So in certain cases, like for instance, whenever you're doing save file editing for the main game, you'll not only have to turn something, you'll not only have to change the count of something, you'll have to turn it to true or false. Otherwise, it will still cause issues or whatever. So, like for instance, if you want to convince Gloria that to help you out in certain instances or whatever, you will have to change it to convince Gloria true for said thing, and then she will still help you out and you'll get the necessary votes, etc., etc. The main game is a little bit more complicated to edit because you have to edit multiple things, and then even when you play the game, it still causes issues and such. But anyway, we're talking about the Rizia DLC, so let's say we want to turn around and deal with authority. I hope my spelling is right because I am not looking right now. Okay, so we'll be looking for authority. Now, this is different. As you can see right here, it says Rizia DLC.resources/authority modifiers total. You can't change this because this is a calculation. So even if you change this to 100, it will automatically revert back once you actually start the game up because this is a calculation of all the modifiers that deal with certain things. So like, let's say for instance, I'll just try to highlight this. It does that every damn time. God, I hate it when that happens. So let me try to be very careful with this. Okay. Go ahead and copy that. And let's go. That should be the right one now. Okay, that's not. That's actually for the military. And again, I'll explain that in a second as well. This one. Okay, here we go. So now we are to the actual ones that you can change. This is what you're looking for right here. So you probably would want to go ahead and highlight the entire thing so that way it can take you straight to the one that you're actually trying to change. But yeah, these are the three that you're actually trying to change: the resources budget, resources authority, resources energy. Now, again, these have hard caps, so you can put whatever you want in these spots, but it will cap out automatically at a certain things. So if you put, 25, right? Well, excuse me, if you put 30 right here, I'll go ahead and change this to 30 across the board. So we'll change this to 30 budget because I'm lazy, 90 for authority, and I'll change this to 29. It will not go to these numbers because the cap on these are very different. So the cap on the budget, of course, is 25. The cap on authority is 15. The cap on resources energy is, of course, 25 also. So again, it doesn't matter what you actually put right there. It'll automatically go to the cap once you start the game up. And the main game is the same way. If you turn around and put, I think that the cap is 100. I could be wrong about that. But no matter what number you put in those spot for the personal wealth and for the budget, the government budget, it will always revert back to the highest number in that case that it can go to, or whatever the cap is, which I think is 100. Again, could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think the cap is 100. So again, this is just for changing the budget. Now, if you want to turn around and kind of prevent yourself from having to go in back and forth constantly, the easiest way to do that is to change the actual budget modifiers. So the easiest way to turn around and do that is to basically just put a subtraction sign here instead, and it will turn around and give you any it'll bring up anything that has a minus sign. So in this case, this is leaning value for nationalists. This isn't for a budget or anything like that. This is your values as a character, the little political diagram that you see at the end of the game. That's for changing that. So we'll ignore that. Okay, so here's one we have. Rizia DLC, War Palais, Public War Support. So if you're going to go to War with Palais, and you know that right off the bat, you can go ahead and change this. So where if you do trigger a war with Palais, then instead of you getting a -1 for public support, then it can be, 35. Oh, excuse me. Okay, I said that a little wrong. This is how much the public will actually approve if you get into a war with Palais, or what's the best way to say that? This is the public's sentiment towards war with Palais. So in that case, it was -1 because I was trying to be all peaceful and stuff like that. So if I change it to 35, this means that the public will be more likely to want war with Palais. So again, that's where you kind of go with that. I'm going to go ahead and mess with these stats because I have a previous save on there, so I can just use that save. So yeah, that's for that. Production capacity and things like that. I am not really sure what this really does, other than the fact that, like, if you have it very high, you will notice in the codex section, it'll say things like, oh, you have outstanding production capacity, or you'll have, if you change the living standards, it'll say, oh, you have very high living standards and stuff like that. So, and the same thing pretty much goes for some of these other ones as well. Now, for some of the other ones, let's say if you want to, have high approval rating with the different houses, this is what you'll be searching for right here. Rizia DLC, Country, House of Zaro. I changed all of them to 100, so I don't have to keep going back and forth in there. As you can see, I've kind of lost some of that support, but if you put it at about 100, it shouldn't get too ridiculously low, because I think the actual approval is supposed to be between 5 and -5. I think that's supposed to be the highest it'll go. Of course, it'll get much lower than that, and it'll get much higher than that. But of course, if it gets any higher than that, you kind of get into this point to where if it gets high enough, it can never get too low. So that, at least within a main playthrough, because you only have so many decisions that affect certain things, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's for the house approvals and such. So again, change any of these, you shouldn't have to worry. Now, you will have situations where if you do negative things in the game, of course, Rico, or of course, Hugo will turn around and say things like, oh, well, House Taurus didn't like this, or they're not happy with you about this. Ignore that. That's just the normal dialogue because it can't process certain things. But of course, you will notice in other dialogues, it'll say like, oh, well, House Taurus is completely happy with you and such. That's why you had that weird incident in the last game that I turned around and played, where even though I was basically warring with Lesbia and Palais and everything else in between, I still had a very, very high approval rating in the game. So they still wanted to do business with me. And I guess that was all it really took at the end of the day, was changing how they view me and changing the public opinion, so on and so forth. But again, that's public opinion. Now, the last thing I guess I'll go ahead and touch on is, of course, military resources. Now, military is a little different because, of course, you have two things that you have to look at. You have to look at the actual military resources that you have, and then you also have to look at the actual deployed military. That's where I made the mistake the first time that I was playing with the cheated save file. I didn't have deployed military. So even though I had ridiculous amounts of equipment and ridiculous amounts of tanks and stuff like that, none of them were deployed. So I couldn't use any of that stuff. So you'll have to be looking for the actual deployed file. And give me 1 second while I actually find the actual phrasing that you need to look for. Okay, so I went ahead and I said screw it, and I just typed in deployed. That's probably the easiest way. Because again, you have to kind of be careful with some of these, because if you type in certain things, it will bring up every single instance of that, not just what you're specifically looking for. And again, if you're technologically challenged, you don't want to turn around and be looking at all this stuff. But the one you're going to be looking at to change is basically the deployed stat. So in this case, let's say if you want ships or whatever. I have 0 ships deployed. I'm going to change that to 2,000 ships deployed. And that basically means, of course, you have 2,000 ships that you can turn around and use. So this also affects the, if I'm not mistaken, this also affects the power projection stats as well. This will affect, of course, how the world sees you and so on and so forth. You'll see the little codex entry about that. But yeah, so now I have 2,000 ships that I can turn around and use. Same way with this. Submarines deployed. 2,000. We'll do that as well. Let's move on to the next one. Infantry deployed. And that's also, we'll change that to 2,000 as well. So yeah, that means I can use 2,000 infantry. I can use, 2,000 submarines, et cetera, et cetera. And that's deployed. That'll be ready to go whenever there's a war or anything like that. You don't have to change any of these other stats. I'm not sure what happens if you change this. I'm assuming this would negatively affect you towards the end because it would show, like, let's say if you added 2,000 right here to the submarine dead category, I'm pretty sure it would be brought up at some point and it would, give you some negative buffs, which I'm pretty sure you don't want. And it's the same way for the total. You don't have to mess with the total because the game will basically recalculate all this stuff once it actually starts up again. It'll just fix all this stuff. So yeah, don't mess with the total. Just mess with the deployed section. And the same thing with airstrikes. If you want airstrikes, let's see. I cannot spell. Lovely. Okay, you don't want enemy airstrikes. Okay, so this is what you'll be looking for the airstrikes. So right now I only have one that I can turn around and use. We're gonna bump that up to, let's say, 200. I think 200 was what I did previously or whatever. You won't see this until you actually get into the war games thing or whatever, but that basically means you will have 200 airstrikes that you can turn around and use. The last one that the other last one, I keep saying the last one, but the other last one that I will point out too is when you get into the war phase, the turns. There actually is one for the turns. Give me 1 second while I try to find that. All right, and now I have found the actual turns, and it's called Rizia DLC War, the under slash thingy action points. This is what you're looking for in order to change how many turns that you have, how many moves you have in each turn. Now, there is a bit of a catch to this, though. You do not want to change this to some ridiculous number. I think when I did it, I want to say it was 15. It was either 15 or 20. But the reason why you don't want to do this is because this affects the UI. So if you have 100, you're going to have 100 of these at the bottom of the screen, which means you're also not going to be able to do airstrikes. You're not going to be able to do certain deployments. And I think you can't do, it's something else that you can't do. I guess the naval bombardments and stuff like that also. So yeah, you don't want to have it be a ridiculous number. So I would say 15 would probably be the max. I think it kind of clips at the end. It's either 15 or 20, but mess around with it and see. So yeah, that's the last one that you should change. So yeah, once you turn around and you've changed everything, it's just a matter of going into the game at that point and just playing. So we'll go ahead and jump into the game and of course, once you're done with the editing or whatnot, you just go ahead and save up there. And then, of course, you just click out of this. And then we'll just hop into the game. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, so now we're into the save file that I've been playing in my spare time. And of course, we can go ahead and look at the edits. And as I said before, again, everything will just revert back to the way it was or what the caps are. So again, 15 authority, 25 budget, 25 energy. And as far as the military goes, as you can see, it went ahead and added everything. So, yeah, it's very simple and very straightforward. Now, in this case, it added a little bit more because the total was different. So it added 2,000 because I already had 10,005 as far as the total goes. So, yeah, but that was just some editing that I had did on my side or whatever. So, again, a little wonkiness, of course, in that particular situation. But yeah, everything has been added. As you can see, the ships, same thing there. I had 10,000 total ships So it went ahead and added 2,000 more because I had that in the deployed section. And it's the same way with the submarines. I had 10,001. So it went ahead and added the extra 2,000 deployed that I had put there. So, and I believe you can do that for pretty much everything except for these special units, the Golden Guard, the Azaro Elites, the Saison Levies, the mercenary units, and the flagship. And the reason why this is the case is because apparently there's a true false thing in the back, and you'll have to find that particular unit, set it to true, then you can add the numbers in, and then it'll actually go ahead and show up properly and whatnot. But I think if you just add numbers to it, it won't actually do anything. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Again, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask me in the comment section, and I'll try to help out as much as I can. There's a lot of guides to this also. I've seen several Reddit posts about the actual things that you can change on the back end. It has the codes and everything. As a matter of fact, so here's the actual post that I found on the Suzerain subreddit that has pretty much everything as far as the codes that you should look for on the back end. So again, very easy to turn around and do. Again, you can mess with some of that stuff just by, of course, searching some of these things in. But yeah, if you're looking for something in particular, you can just go ahead and find this post. It looks like it's by OpenPath 101. Shout out to you. But yeah, of course, just go ahead, find this post on Suzerain subreddit, and yeah, it has everything that you turn around and need. You can find everything that you need to change. There's the Ruhus's opinion, there's the Dash Nurus opinion. Again, I've set all these to 100, and yeah, shouldn't be that big of an issue. If you set all these, of course, you can turn around and affect the relationship that you have with these people, so that way they don't coup you or anything like that. And then, of course, there's all these or whatever. So, and as far as the modifiers go, thus far, I haven't ran into any situation where I ended up getting the negative penalty that's supposed to happen if you turn around and mess around with things too much on the back end. Apparently, there's something called like it's some type of modifier. I'm not sure what the actual name of it is, but apparently, if you mess with certain modifiers too much and give yourself too much, it'll turn around and trigger, and it'll give you a negative 20 in everything that you've edited. I have not ran into that yet, but apparently it is a thing. So you might want to be careful about editing the modifiers. That's why typically if there's a negative modifier that I'm facing, I just zero it out. I don't actually give myself anything in the process because I don't want to trigger anything. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as editing save files and stuff like that. Again, like I said, if you need any help with anything, please feel free to leave it in the comment section, and I will try to help out as much as I can. And of course, it's a community. Help out, help out each other. If you know anything, by all means, share it in the comment section and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching the video. I'm sorry it took so long to turn around and do it. I was trying to change some stuff as far as my actual personal information so it wasn't showing up left and right. But yeah, again, I do apologize for this taking so long to come out because I actually did record another video, but I just kind of abandoned it because I couldn't edit the thing. My editing skills suck, actually. So I do not have the, editing skills of some of the YouTube greats. But one day I will maybe find somebody to do all the editing and stuff like that. So again, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.